There are two things going on. One, it's your own picture, your incarnation story, which only you know, and you came here to be better, perfect yourself. If you're perfect, you wouldn't bother incarnating. So that's bad news for anybody with a big ego that just joined the program.
Speak for
If
yourself, Freddie. No,
Exactly. If,
Don't-
if you're perfect, you wouldn't bother incarnating. You don't need to incarnate. So we come here to work on ourselves, but at the same time, we're part of the big cog called humanity, and that has rhythms and patterns. And the Indian people, of course, are very good about this, about their yuga cycles, and they go back 16,000 years. I don't know how they did this. It has to be part of the folklore and the experience because they talk about a time when the Earth went backwards, as do the Egyptians, by the way. Sometimes something big hit the Earth, and the poles actually switched places. The Hopi talk about that. And then there are these cycles within the cycles of which humanity comes in every 4,500 years and goes through a specific collective experience. For the last 4,000 years, we've been experiencing the fall of the lunar culture, which is a very feminine culture, to a solar masculine dominated culture, because we want to explore how it works. That's all there is to do in the universe, is to have an experience. You don't have to believe me, but you just have to accept that as being the truth. And believe me, your life becomes so much easier to handle if you just accept that as being the truth. It worked for me, by the way. I don't know what's going on, but I'm having an experience. And my experience is to be here at the end of this next 4,000 year phase of human experience, watching everything fall apart. And it's not the first time it's fallen apart, it's fallen apart many, many times. And if you look at what the ancestors were saying, is the reason why we looked at the sky so much and we commemorated these in big temples around the world, sometimes covering as much as 140,000 years. I mean, why do you need to build a calendar that's 140,000 years long? You'd be dead by then, and so would everyone else along with it. If you want to build a calendar, get some sticks, put them into the ground, and you know where the sun and the moon are going to be. You can plant crops. No, because they understood cycles. The idea was to prepare. And I remember a story from the Waitaha in New Zealand about 5,000 years ago, which ushered in this era of solar energy, solar power, was when the Earth was hit by a massive solar flare, as it tends to do quite regularly, and it set fire to huge tracts of the planet, and the whole of the eastern side of New Zealand on the South Island was burnt to a crisp. Now, they survived to tell the tale because they understood what was going on. They paid attention to nature, and they could also calculate where the Earth was in relationship to the solar system, to the sun, where everything was in relationship to the galaxy, because they knew everything about the sky. And they figured, okay, in a couple of months, we're going to be hit by lots of cosmic rays. A lot of places are going to be burnt to a crisp, so let's get some food, some water, and we'll find shelter in these natural limestone caves. The caves are still there. And then a month later, they came out, found everything burnt to a crisp, and they got on with their life. That's the difference. If you are prepared, luck will favor you in terms of survival. And that's why we paid attention to these cycles. Because if you understand where you are in the cycle, you can prepare and you can tell the story to the next people that come along. So the next generation will know to look for the signs, and they'll make the experience much more easier to navigate. It doesn't mean that you can't avoid difficulties, because difficulties are part of part and parcel of being here on Earth. This is why we came here, is to develop ourselves. We're given challenges, and you have to do the best you can. That's what it's all about. So the idea was that if you're living in specific cycles, it's all part of this clockwork movement of when certain groups of people incarnate on the Earth, and then you go through that experience. So right now, everything's falling apart because we're moving to another level of experience. The Maya know about this. There's a 60-year window. So if you were waiting for the world to die in 2012, I got news for you. You should have paid attention to the Maya, because they said, no, nothing's going to happen on 2012. That's the midpoint of the cycle. There's a 30-year window and another 30-year window. And if we don't hit a critical mass in understanding where we are and where we want to go as a collective, the window starts closing. And as the window closes and you're not hitting the critical mass, the Earth is going to show you who's boss. And right now, there's no, no. I mean, let's face it. I mean, you're in the middle of a cyclone right now, I believe, heading towards Brisbane, and half the country is usually on fire, from what I hear. So's half of the planet. And what did the last Yuga cycle say? This world that we're in will come to the end because of fire. So we got global warming, we have fires going out of control all over the planet. And we see how this is actually changing into the next cycle. So the ones that are paying attention will get through this. Okay, the ones that know how to prepare accordingly will survive, and the other ones will perish just like before. So we are part of this big cycle that is designed for a specific experience. But here's the fun part, and it's quite sick humor on the part of the universe. You won't know until you actually die what the actual experience is all about. So Dante, when you wrote the Divine Comedy, was absolutely right. I think you have to take it with a bit of a pinch of salt and with a bit of humor. That you have the experience and you forget why you came here. But as long as you do the best you can and don't beat yourself up when you get it wrong, just don't learn to make a habit of falling flat on your face regularly. You're doing really well. Don't worry about what the other guy's doing. Worry about yourself and how you're treating yourself in this particular cycle, and you'll get through it just fine. So, I'm a big believer in these clockwork cycles because so many people that were here long before us, the Hopi, the Aboriginal people, the Indian people, and the Tamil culture, especially of southern India, they talked about that a long time ago. And they were smart enough to let us know how it works, so we might as well pay attention to people who live through these things to tell the tale.
Hey there, Inspired Evolutionary. If you absolutely loved this, well, then here's a full conversation with this guest on the Inspired Evolution podcast. Check it out now.